Good afternoon and welcome to the September 24th school board meeting of the Richmond Board of School Trustees. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our audience, we are having a 12 o'clock board meeting today because it's homecoming week, and there are going to be lots of festivities this evening, beginning with a parade that I believe starts at 6:30. And so we wanted to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to attend those festivities and support our high school students. So we will begin now with our statement of mission.
Our mission statement is that Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you, Kelly. And our vision.
Richmond Community Schools, a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you, Susie. And now we have a showcase video of a very, very special teacher, I believe.
No, that comes next.
That comes next. Okay.
Mrs.
Special school.
Would you like to introduce this, Mrs. Gibbs?
This is the homegrown video put together by our students and principals. So it's about the new Hibbard with early college and logos highlighted.
Early college and logos highlighted at the Hibbard program building. Okay, let it roll.
All right, here we go. Together, 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 everyone. Together, together, come on, let's have some fun. Together, we're there for each other every time. Together, together, come on, let's do this voilà l'alphabet français.
Well, the beginning of it was Adolf Hitler, the Chancellor of Germany, wanted two things: a perfect race and world domination.
How does early college use service learning?
Early college uses service learning by helping life skills with creative arts.
How has early college prepared you for high school and your future?
Well, one of the things about early college that has really helped us prepare for the high school and prepare for our futures, because it really helps us build along others that we don't necessarily like. It's also helped us to know that, really get to know our career and what we really want to go into at the youngest stage while we can get that done. And it's also helped us really work hard at what we really want to achieve.
How does early college use academic rigor?
Early college uses academic rigor by being the best that you can be.
How does early college use habits of mind?
Early college uses habits of mind by persistence, because in my opinion, we don't give up at what we do.
What do you like about teaching in early college?
I like teaching early college because I'm a first-generation student myself, and I want to make sure that others in my situation have the same opportunity.
All right, here we go. Together, 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 everyone. Together, together, come on, let's have some fun. Together, we're there for each other every time. Together, together, come on, let's do this right.
So cute.
That's what it's all about. Come on now. Everyone is special in their own way.
That was an experience for us all to learn how to do that on the computer. So the kids collected, and the Logos kids collected on one iPad that then ended up being a dud, so they didn't get some of their things in, but we got them in other ways. But hope that gave you a little flavor of what we see and feel at Hibbard. And then I'm going to share with you just a brief, let's see if I can figure how to. It was hard to, our charge was to present Logos in early college, which is, it's really not Hibbard. It's because life skills wasn't included in that. So I couldn't resist putting them on here, but our focus is Logos in early college for you today. Just to let you know, we do have 3rd through 8th graders in our building. We have 69 3rd through 4th graders. And they are identified from all the elementary buildings for high ability services. When they go into the 5th grade, they'll go upstairs either into early college or into the Logos program. They are in multi-age classrooms, 3 3rd, 4th grade classrooms. We have 98 early college 5th through 8th graders, and they are identified in the 4th grade in their elementary schools. The candidating process involves looking for demonstrated leadership and what we might call grit, aptitude, and commitment to learning. They are first-generation college students in most cases. They study English, social studies, science, and Chinese in addition to their math and creative arts. And there's a strong emphasis on the parents. From the very beginning, they start off with home visits to get to know the families. Our Logos students are identified high-ability students qualified for that need of service. There's a little graph at the top there. You can see what the percentage of our RCS population is for each of the grade levels at this point. Their classes are humanities, science, French, and then project group is a big part of what they do, and that's why that little clip of, I think that was Jacob Thomas. He was just a 5th grader, but he was in project group, and his his project was on Adolf Hitler, but he was very serious about his work there. The picture that I had for Logos, they are not serious. Those are that was a help shelter project last year. I think they came dressed as gender switching, something like that. But there's a change this year. They are organized a little differently with the influx of students that we have coming into 5th grade now from the 3rd, 4th grade program. We changed up a little bit, so now they are in 5th, 6th grade multi-age and 7th, 8th grade multi-age groupings. Math classes at Hibbard, we offer 3rd through 7th grade math, pre-algebra, and algebra in our building. And students, we have math all through the building, 1st and 2nd period, and kids can move to whatever math class is appropriate for them. Geometry is on site at test this year. Pre-algebra, algebra also are classes that students can take either at Dennis and test if they are in band. And then early college has a teacher that is somewhat dedicated to them at Dennis for their math. So a lot of them will go to Dennis for math. So we have this shuttle thing going in the mornings to take care of the band and the math. The creative and applied skills really impact our building. PE includes swimming, golf, and jump rope units, which are somewhat different from what you might find in other buildings. We also house the thump jumpers, and we provide swimming instruction for test and Dennis 5th graders. Our music, she includes keyboard, guitar, recorder, and voice through the 5th through 8th grade years. And extracurricular activities. She has a Cats choir and a Cub choir, and we're really proud of the work that they do. They become really excellent at their singing by the time they leave us in 8th grade. Art also, we have an art club, and every year Mrs. Talbot works, I believe it's the McDonald's grant, where she has a visiting artist display. And in addition to those, second period for 7th and 8th grade, we also offer an assortment of electives like business basics. With our new counselor this year, she's offering career pathways as an option, speech. We try to give our Logos time with Chinese. They do introduction, they can opt for introduction to Chinese, or early college can take introduction to French. The emphasis in the programs, early college has cornerstones that they work with. The academic rigor, that was a 5th grader who was letting you know that for her at 5th grade, that means you do your best. Service learning is huge. We spend time at the Cope Center. They're starting a new initiative with Habitat for Humanity. Habits of Mind, actually, we're adopting that school-wide and working with Habits of Mind. And community and college partnerships, they are regularly, on a monthly basis, the 7th and 8th graders have projects they do with the staff at IU East. And on the Logos side, they're organized according to learner outcomes, and a lot of these learner outcomes are very consistent with 21st century skills. That last, you didn't hear Connor at the very end, but he was doing what a self-directed learner is, and that's an emphasis in all of our programming. Collaborative worker, complex thinker, quality producer, and a community contributor. It was important for us to connect our students, life skills, early college, Logos, so that they know each other more personally. We also have a lot of initiatives in the district. For example, Second Step and Steps to Respect are social emotional learning. We wanted to incorporate habits of mind, and those are, I don't know if you would call those soft skills. We also wanted to connect with the community more than words. So we put together a curriculum for the year, and every Tuesday our kids have CATS meetings, and the kids are all mixed up, life skills, early college, Logos, in CATS teams. And that's where they have their social emotional training with Second Step, and then later we'll be going into Steps to Respect. That's when we emphasize the habits of mind, and Jeannie Engel, our new counselor, is helping us create curriculum so everybody hears the same basic information on those things. And we're also incorporating the more than words. This month is responsibility, and the team came and did an excellent job with an assembly for the school with that. On the alternate Tuesdays, they sign up for clubs, and that's more of a social time for them to interact in. There's also a lot of learning. You can scan through there and see. The yearbook club is what I have, and they're the ones that help me put the information in the video together. Field and guest experiences are important. We spend a lot of time fundraising and getting especially our early college kids equipped to go to Washington, D.C. for the 8th graders. 6th and 7th grade go to Mammoth Cave and COSI. They alternate those. 5th graders they go to Cincinnati to Newport Aquarium and the Freedom Center. So we tend to have lots of guests. And Monday, I think it was, the gal from IU East who was visiting, she was associated with the book that they're doing For the Love of Cities, and she came and spoke with the early college kids. So there's just a lot going on. Bo Van Pelt was there last week with Pam Kirk, and then she also took her kids to Family Fitness Works as part of a field trip for PE. And I had ready access to some pictures for those. Community service, just as a building, there tends to be a lot of student-initiated work that direction. I wish I could have put the video clip in here, but these 3 kids from the 3rd, 4th grade put together a little video clip for the rest of the building. Ben Brawley is in the wheelchair there, and every spring there is a contest that his family gets involved in. If you have so many hits, you get a van that's equipped for. And as he gets older, that's a real need their family has. And these 3rd and 4th graders took it on themselves to really push that in our building. Logos is very involved with the Help Shelter. They raise a lot of money for that organization every year. Our early college last year, the IU East Initiative was on water. I don't remember the name of the... Wine to Water, right. So the kids read that book, and then when the hurricane, was it a hurricane in the Philippines or an earthquake? I think it was a hurricane in the Philippines. They got very enthusiastic about that and launched a citywide and district-wide campaign to get water, not water bottles, but water filters for the Philippines. A 3rd, 4th grader just started Pennies for Mrs. Toby. It happens to be Mrs. Toby's daughter. So this week we're working on raising funds for Mrs. Toby. And then we put on the carnival. The kids worked for Life Skills Playground last year. These are our superheroes, not all of them. So I didn't have all their pictures readily available there to put up. But these are the people who work with our kids, and a very, very dedicated staff of folks who really value their time with their kids and put a lot of time and energy into the work they do in our building. And here is one of your future RH. She is just as sweet as she is beautiful, and her grandma will tell you that if you aren't sure. But she is somebody coming up that you all are preparing the world for here at RCS. And that's it.
Grandmas get it.
I had to do that. I had to slip that in.
Cutie.
Anybody questions? I know you have a big agenda today, so.
Thank you. That was very informative, and we always love seeing the kids.
Thank
Appreciate the time you took out of your schedule to do that, Gwen.
Yes. Okay, now we are going to celebrate the joy of learning.
That's right.
And hopefully this great teacher that we have with us.
Before we begin that, do we have a word from the REA president? Would you like to introduce this video?
Good afternoon. Richmond Community Schools, in collaboration with REA, the Richmond Education Association, has taken it upon ourselves for this year to honor a Teacher of the Month from Richmond Community Schools. And one of the pleasures of my job as the president of the REA is to get to, reach out and find out who are the candidates that we want to bring forward. And one of the challenges is to narrow it down. So we have a lot of high-quality teachers in Richmond Community Schools, but the first teacher that was honored was Kirsten Phillips, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be here that night to introduce her. But today I'm able to be here to introduce Keith Morey, who is 8th grade science teacher at Dennis Middle School. He's also cross-country coach and the facilitator of the Washington, D.C. trip that benefits not just Dennis students, but Dennis test students and the students from the Hibbard building. So it's become, started as a building-wide activity and has become a district-wide. Keith is the candidate that I chose partly because I've watched him for 7 years take on more and more and more, and that has been a huge benefit for our students and also for our staff. And as you watch the video, you will see one of the reasons why I've grown to really respect Keith and what he's done at Dennis. So would you like him to come and be recognized, or you want to wait till after the video? Or
why don't we watch the video and then we will ask Keith to come
Wonderful.
forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited that we're honoring Mr. Morey as the REA Teacher of the Month. Mr. Morey and I go way back. I was his football coach in high school. In 1991, he played on one of the best football teams in the history of Richmond High School, and he was a big part of that team's success. And I've known him since he was a kid coming to my camps and those kind of things. So he and I go way back, and so I was really proud of the fact when I came here to Dennis as a principal that he was one of the teachers here.
This is my 7th year in the teaching profession. As a teaching professional, I taught for a couple years abroad, but that doesn't count. I went to school through high school all the way through Richmond Community Schools, graduated from Richmond High School. Then I went to Earlham College, got my undergraduate degree, ran around and did things like teaching in Thailand and the Bahamas. I was a program director at a YMCA for a while out on the West Coast, and somehow made it back to Richmond and did my Master's of Arts in Teaching through Earlham College again at the graduate programs in education.
Mr. Morey came here 7 years ago. He's a native son of Richmond, and he is our 8th grade science teacher. He is cross-country coach, and he also facilitates the 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C., which is Hibbard, Test, and Dennis. Mr. Morey is a very positive person who, when there are problems, rather than spending time complaining about it, his strategy is to find solutions. And that's been I think, a positive role model for both the students and the staff. That, you know, in life, when we come across obstacles or difficulties, if we just do nothing but complain, then nothing changes. And I think that that's probably one of his strengths, is that he works hard to find solutions. He's a great guy, and we love having him here at Dennis. He's been a great addition to the faculty.
I like the extracurricular stuff. I like being able to get kids out and see things that they haven't seen or done before. So doing those things, like that DC trip, is great for me. It's a blast. I get to work with kids in a different way than we do on an everyday basis at school. Do a little dancing on the cruise, and digging around in the sand on the beach and that sort of thing. That's what's really fun for me. That's cross country as well, running, and then just the labs and stuff that we do in class. They have a pretty good time in my class. That we try to make it a little bit fun, and that I'm a fairly laid back guy. I think they can probably get away with stuff with me that they may not get away with. Maybe I'm a softie.
I just think that, again, we're very, very fortunate to have him here, and he just brings so much to us, and he has that infectious type of atmosphere or attitude around him that helps our atmosphere here, and I think a lot of our younger teachers really learn from him and appreciate the fact that he's here.
Come forth.
He is truly awesome.
How you doing?
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Morey, and we feel fortunate to have you in Richmond Community Schools also.
I appreciate it. I would say that Bridget brought a couple of the kids over from the high school, I don't know what class it was, TV, and so they did that whole thing, and one of them was I had prior, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, but they did a really good job. I said, they actually made me look okay. Oh, that was pretty good. So.
Well, last year, Keith and I were partners in judging a science fair at ESA.
Yeah,
so I learned a lot from Keith about science and things that I didn't really think that I wanted to learn that I'm glad that I did. So he does wear many hats, obviously. Susie.
I just would like to express my personal appreciation because I'm sure everybody would agree with me, for the time and energy you put into the Washington trip. It's certainly an opportunity for those kids, and I know from experience that those kinds of projects don't get done between
it's not just that 4 or 5 days. That's right. Yeah, it's a fair amount of work. Yeah.
So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
It's your enthusiasm for it is contagious in the kids.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Dixie.
Well, and I also wanted to say too, I know he coaches cross country because I see the kids out running in front of my house. He not only coaches, he participates with them. He's running too with the kids, and it's a large
That's the only reason I do it. I would coach football, but I'd be 500 pounds by now if I did. So, yeah. cross-country works better. I can get my own little runs in as well.
Well, anybody else? We certainly appreciate you taking the time to come today.
Thanks.
And we truly honor you for the work that you do with our students each and every day. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Kelly, we will look forward to our next teacher coming next month. Okay, we are now ready for public commentary. Anyone, do we have anyone signed up today?
No, we don't have anyone signed up.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak this afternoon? Okay. We are ready to, we're making a change, a little change in the agenda today that Dr. Borf will share with us.
I would like to move item 6.07 forward for a recommendation. 6.07 is a field trip approval that we're requesting. And to present the field trip request, we have the sponsor of that organization. I would like to ask Mr. Gabbard to come up here. You've met him. He's also brought an
Looks like
entire
we have
entourage.
the whole organization, maybe.
Well, not
Great.
all. Would
Not
the
all.
school board members please raise their hands? Because they're sitting back there going, who's on the school board? They are giving you a copy of last year's Pioneering Yearbook. We sent them over and decided this would be a good time to do it, not that bribes are above us. But we are, I'll wait till everybody gets done.
Oh, sorry, I didn't put my hand up. Thank you, Caitlin.
Did Dr. Borf get one?
I have one.
You have one,
Thank you
okay,
very
good,
much.
good. Well, I think we have at least one school board member not here, is that right?
We are
Mr.
missing one.
Stevens.
Perfect. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeff Gabbard. I'm the journalism teacher and publications advisor at the high school. And this is my second year in Richmond after 9 years in Connersville. And I basically have 24 daughters. I have a yearbook staff and a newspaper staff all made up of females. And any of you who have daughters, understand. That's all I'm going to say. We are requesting to go to the National Scholastic Press Association's Fall Convention in Washington, D.C., November 5th through the 9th. The students have begun the year selling advertisements for the Pioneering and the Register, and we are in a fortunate position in that we have some extra money. So everything that they sell for advertising can be applied to their trip. So there's no reason that any student would not be able to go if they get out and earn it. The NSPA convention is held twice a year, once east of the Mississippi and once west of the Mississippi. But the fall convention is always the largest. There are over 250 individual sessions offered. With it being offered in Washington, D.C., we will be hearing from Bob Woodward. For those of you who are older like me, you recognize that name. But a number of professional journalists in Washington, as well as high school faculty members from all over the country. We have 24 students eligible to go. That number obviously is probably not going to be that high. Some have other commitments and things that they've already said they cannot go. So I'm not sure what the number is going to be. We're waiting to get your approval to see exactly how much airfare and all that's going to cost. I've estimated about $850 a student. That includes airfare, hotel, meals, anything that we can think of. And so some students have already raised $450 for themselves to go. And they have until October 1st to continue selling advertisements to make that happen. So I make a motion, we approve this trip. You guys have any questions?
Well, I guess we'll call for the question here.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
So I need a motion. Motion made from Dixie, seconded by Susie. Any comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Well, thank you very much. Please excuse us for being rude, but we're going to get back to class.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you, and I hope that the students are able to earn those dollars.
They've been working very hard. I think most of them will.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Okay, now we are ready to move on to our consent items.
Right. Our consent items include an approval, request for approval of minutes, request for approval, recommendation from Human Resources, and that does not include an addendum for this meeting. From accounts payable, filing of reports, which would be our monthly financial report, approval of an auction of items out at the Garrison building, and also approval for a deduct change order on the Westview roof project.
Okay, motion made by Jeff Slifer. Seconded by Suzanne Darengowski. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we're ready for reports, discussion topics.
We have a brief report. Could provide the information necessary for a lengthy discussion. I don't know. The brief report would be a follow-up from our last meeting. We were asked to provide some costs of appraisals for the Garrison building. So with that information, we turn to Mrs. Scalf.
I contacted Mr. Matt Napodi, who we've used in the past for the same type of request, and he responded with the necessary 2 appraisals that we would need to move forward should we go in that direction. Would amount to about $3,400 in cost, and that's just for the appraisals.
And what did he say the timeline would be for that?
He could not begin them until October, but they would be completed fairly soon after he began them. So.
Is that for both?
Both appraisals.
For sale and then demolished as bare land? What when you say both?
It would be for the request, whatever we requested of him. I did ask him to give me a quote for anything that we might ask on appraisals.
So that would be for also a lease, a lease arrangement, if that's what we wanted.
A rental lease appraisal as well.
So our discussion needs to center around, so we have, if we spend the money for the appraisal, what are our thoughts about what we're going to do with that information that we receive?
My understanding from what we talked about the last time we discussed this was that there would be if we were going to lease the property, maintain the property in some way, there's also a very significant infrastructure cost to that, which is, I'm remembering 100,000, but maybe, I think it was even higher than that.
Well, last year, for what we've been, to the level we've maintained that building, it's run over 60,000. There are some issues that would be necessary to address if we wanted to use the building for any purpose that would involve people being inside. And those costs can be anywhere from $30,000 to $130,000 because of the necessity to address boiler improvements, chiller improvements, and some of the piping. Now, one of the parties interested in that building for leasing it would also be involved, or would also involve people spending the night in the building. Now, when we were dealing with the Garrison, or with the C.R. Richardson project, Mr. Mays, refresh my memory, if people spend the night in the building, if we use that as a dormitory or a place where students spend the night, field trips or such, the building has to be sprinkled. Is that correct?
Right, if they use it to spend the night, that's absolutely.
So that would also be a requirement. And the C.R. Richardson building was what, 180,000 for that? And that was attached to city water. So a number of costs could be a part of any reuse of that building.
So perhaps one of our first discussions needs to center around, would it behoove us to lease the Garrison building? Kelly?
When you said one of the parties interested, does that mean that we have more than one party interested?
We've had people over the years express some interest. As far as serious conversations, we've only had one.
And that's the one who would lease part
A
of the
portion of the building.
Okay, and have you heard from anyone in the public on this? Any opinions or?
Opinions about the lease?
Opinions in general, like what we should do with the school, what they feel we should do with the school. Has anyone contacted you?
I've had one contact, but there have been other, sure, we've been contacted. The primary concern is the future of the cabin.
Okay.
That's what most people who contact us are concerned about.
Okay.
Susie?
Is this potential leasing partner in any way going to be supporting RCS programming, or is it an independent situation?
It would be independent.
Okay.
I just remember that before Mr. Coddington retired, he made a statement. I guess he made a question. Do we want to be in the leasing business? So I think that's what we have to ask ourselves. Do we?
already are.
Pardon me?
We already are in one case.
Well, in one case.
I don't know financially how it would ever work out. I guess you'd have to see an itemized list of what we would have to put into the building, but we're not in a position really to do a lot to infrastructure to an empty building.
Jeff?
To me, I guess some of the bigger questions we have to make sure that we've answered. First, by us closing it and putting it on the list, you see no reason for us to maintain the building for any educational use in the short term. I guess that's kind of a question.
In the short term, I would agree with that, and we haven't put our thoughts to any long
Well,
term.
and the reason why I asked that, because when we went through the master planning process, the major reason why Garrison was included on the list was because of the $4.5 million plus it was going to take to renovate it, to get it to our standards. Secondly, it's the most expensive school building in our system to maintain because it's outside of the city utilities. So, and everything in that building was basically from, the heating system was from the 1970s, early 1970s when the building was built. So, so that's where I'm going back to that. That was the major reason why I supported closing the Garrison building when we did that, 3 years ago. Actually, the decision was 3 years ago now. So then my next question that I have to take a look at is, now that we've deemed that it's no longer, and I'm making that assumption, let's just say we've deemed it that Richmond Schools doesn't need the building. I know that we're spending somewhere between $70,000 and $100,000 a year to maintain it. That's, I think the numbers that we received last board meeting was 66,000 plus labor or something like that, or?
No, I totaled everything.
It was like 66,000? Does that number sound right? Which it didn't have the mowing in it, and it didn't, I'm sure there's some other indirect costs that we could probably factor that so let's say it's costing us between $70,000 and $100,000 a year to maintain it. So we've already spent over $150,000 keeping the building open. We had numbers for demolishment that Ron estimated, I believe, at somewhere around $90,000 to demolish the building. So I'm looking at it as from a financial decision. If we choose to demolish the building, we're going to have the same costs as maintaining the building for another year, or within a few pennies enough that it's not going to be a substantial difference. So So then my next question goes to, is that property worth more if we wanted to get rid of it? Is it worth more with the building or without the building on it? I would probably argue that it's worth more without the building on it.
I think so too.
Now, I don't have any proof of that, that's just my gut feeling. So now, throw in the other question that we have, and that's, it's got the log cabin on it. So if we sell it, let's just say if we decide to sell the building, then we're gonna have to incur an $80,000 expense, which is our estimate, unless we can get some donations, to move the cabin to a facility that can become more useful to us. So now we just incurred another $80,000 expense. So if we demolish the building, then we don't have to move so quickly on the cabin because we still own the land. Unless we have someone that's willing to come out and sign a lease for the full facility and full cost, then I see no reason for us to even entertain the idea of leasing the building. So I guess that's kind of where I'm going with my questions. You know, if all of the assumptions that I've made to my questions or point we all agree with, then why spend $3,400 for an appraisal? Let's just demolish the building and take our time and decide what we're going to do.
Do we have to pay to keep the cabin up? Is there a maintenance on the cabin besides like mowing and?
I don't know that we have, Mr. Tidrow, do we have any record on maintenance of the cabin over the last couple of years?
Oh, we haven't anybody out there or any classroom activities since we opened it up.
I don't believe that
I mean,
there's much in the way
it
of
was
maintenance.
boarded up,
Yeah.
and whatever expense that was to.
We mow it. We mow the site.
But we'd have to mow there anyway.
Well, just out of curiosity, and this is just kind of out there, if we did demolish the building and decided to donate the land and the cabin, is that something that is within our parameters to do as a school corporation?
I would have to defer to our counsel on that.
Certainly the cabin, I think, is burdensome to the school corporation in a financial sense, so you could donate that. The land, I'm a little reticent to say you could. A lot would depend on who the donee might be. If it's a public entity or public not-for-profit, yeah, you'd have a lot of flexibility. If it was to a private entity, I think not. But the cabin itself, I think we have some data somewhere that, I know the $80,000 number that Jeff recited was what I recalled too, and the last go-around, when Bob tested the waters, there wasn't a whole lot of interest from the, if you will, the philanthropic element of the community to jump up and.
But that was if we moved it, correct?
That was trying to move it, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the question that I haven't had answered yet, if the building was demolished, and I forgive me for not going back, I asked last board meeting what the acreage was, and I forgot to go back and look at it, but I was thinking it was somewhere around 20 acres. And I could be wrong on that, but would the property without a building be worth enough for us to put it for sale and get enough money to pay for moving the cabin? I don't think we could get enough with a building on it, but I think we could possibly get enough with a building off of it.
Right, because whoever bought it would probably have to take the building down. So they're not gonna wanna pay as much.
Okay, so, can we, does anyone see a reason why we should go forth with having it appraised?
The only reason why I see like we should go forth with having it appraised is if there's validity in the building being demolished, we would have to get it appraised to even sell it as bare land, correct? So.
But could we not do that after we determine?
I think, is there a timeline on the appraisal?
Yeah, they're only good for so long.
Is it only good for like 180 days or 90 days?
No, I don't think there is. I think that obviously the longer out you go, the less you know, the more suspect the process is, but,
Well, I'm just trying to figure the timeline. So would it behoove us to go ahead and determine if we feel that the building should be demolished? And then after that's complete, then would it be best to have it appraised? I mean, does it make any difference in the timeline
Well,
as to
I
how?
I think one option that you haven't really considered, and that is, you know, to have it appraised, not so much as a preliminary step in either a lease or sale, but to give the board data as to your options. And we did have that done in the past with Hibbert, and one of the comments, one of the areas of inquiry was whether the value of the land, if the building were not there, this has been 8 or 9, 10 years ago, would be greater than the structure as it existed, and in fact, the appraiser thought that was probably the case. We could probably get that for roughly half the price of the 2 appraisals, because that would then give you a little bit of a sanity check, if you will, to determine whether it's worth going forward, soliciting quotes on the cost to raise and clear the debris of the structure. So, you know,
So it would
that's a possibility too.
just be on the ground is what you're saying, on the value of the land?
You know, you can get an appraisal of what based upon the acreage, the number of tillable acres, what have you, and certain assumptions as to what the demolition restoration process will result in, that should give you a pretty good feel for what the fair market value of the land without the building would be.
I think that would be wise.
Susie?
I feel like the conversation is going in a reasonable direction. The one little red flag that keeps going up in the back of my mind because of working on other projects, not out there, but in the community, would we at some point be needing to test the soil for, I mean, it has had oil heat and it does have, I mean, I think there might be some environmental issues potentially that, and I don't know, I mean, I'm not suggesting that there are, but how do we make sure that there aren't?
Well, we would have that, I think probably, if anyone, in my experience with real estate sales, I think even if we decided to get it appraised and put it up for sale, the buyer will probably have an environmental condition, and we will probably have to meet that anyway.
I mean, they've been checked.
I mean, they're not gonna buy the property if they suspect that there's any.
There's a bank financing involved, there'll at least be a phase 1. But the history of the use is, you know, pre-1970 would be something you'd look at, and I don't recall what the title looks like to that property. Certainly the history of use since the building's been there, once you remove the structure itself and you have any asbestos or related type of PCB type issues taken care of by the removal of the debris, I can't envision it, but you know, there would still be the minimum phase 1, some minimum soil borings. It's about a now it's probably about $2,500 process, which is non-negotiable. If you have an interesting buyer, sometimes they'll pick up the cost of the phase 1. If phase 1 is problematic, then either the owner steps up or the buyer can back out before you proceed any further with more detailed environmental analysis or remediation. But that will be a concern we can't avoid if we market the property in any form or fashion, probably.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Suzanne?
I agree that your gut sort of tells you, given the condition of the building, that it might be better without it, but it seems like maybe we need to go through the appraisal process to give us enough information to make that next choice. But just, as Ron said, make sure that the appraisal that we ask for is what's it look like with and without. Otherwise, I don't think we have really, other than our educated gut, decide what the best choice is. And then, like you said, we can decide, well, is it worth enough to get that cabin off of there? Or if we were to take it down, does that open up a whole new market for people who might be interested with it?
So I hear that we're moving forward with some appraisals.
Should we,
motion?
should we do a motion?
I'd like to hear a motion.
Okay, so, do we have a motion to move forth with the appraisal?
I'd like to make that motion, move forward with appraisal for the Garrison property and to give us that information to go forward.
But we want the appraisal two ways.
With
We
or
want it
without?
with and without the building.
Right now, we're just doing one appraisal. We're not looking
Correct.
to this being the preliminary step to marketing the property. It's just giving the board basic information to work from.
So we have some data.
We have one that'll be for the fair market value of the property as it sits, as it stands, and another one for what the fair market value might be if the property were, if the building were raised and properly, the debris properly disposed of.
Absolutely. Thank
That
you
I
for
would
that
second that.
clarification. That, I agree.
Okay, motion made by Suzanne, seconded by Jeff. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Clarification, the appraisal that you get will have an assumption stated, and that is that there are no environmental issues associated with the land. That's typical for an MAI appraisal of this sort, so we're not going to get that issue answered. But like I explained earlier, that's an issue that we'll have to confront to some degree or another in any marketing of the property.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for our second item, we would like to report on our ADM. And Mrs. Hollis will write a brief report on that.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You received in your packet a breakdown and also a comparison to last year's ADM. Couple things for, really more probably for the public, you understand this, but for the public's perspective, when we talk about our ADM count, that's not our head count. So if you went to Power School right now or to our website and pulled up our performance measures, you could get an exact head count, which I just did that a little bit ago, and we're at 5,323. From that number, though, we take out our preschool. That's an investment you as a board have decided to make into our future is through preschool. Take that out, and then our kindergarten is in half. Because we only get reimbursed through ADM based on the half. So that, I just want to make that clear as we move forward into our conversation, that is really, it's not our head count, that's what's required by the state for our reimbursement is the ADM. We did have a large kindergarten class, and we do have a large first grade class. We have over 400 in each one of those, and which has had to cause some movement. Vail was really full in our first week, and we had to make some movements for them to get some breathing space there for the building. But so we celebrate that. We celebrate that our elementaries have done really well in following our communication plan and our marketing plan as well. So you can see where we were 2013-14. We were at 4,813.6, and then we have reported to, we're still cleaning up these numbers because we have to go through DOE and push and pull on some of those children, but our number as of today is 4,777 that we're looking at. So you can see where our growth was. It was in elementary. They have done a fantastic job. This year we did something a little different than we've done in the past. We really worked very, very closely with our buildings. So when we got to ADM, we weren't surprised. We had an idea of where our numbers would be, and that was very helpful for us. And so I think we were off by 5. Karen and I worked really close with our buildings, and I just want to say to our buildings and to the secretaries, they had to do a lot of work within 3 weeks to get those numbers cleaned up for us. And so I think our count was off by 5, so we were really close to where the number we submitted to Dr. Borf before ADM count happened. And I want to answer any questions that you might have at this time before I share something. Yes?
Do you have any idea where the high school students went?
We do have an idea where the high school students are going. We are doing, every month, I looked at last year's numbers, and they are, I will tell you, our biggest competition right now, looking at last year's numbers, and even in our first 30 days, is our community. We have people that are leaving Wayne County, and I'm not saying leaving Richmond, they are leaving Wayne County. So that is our biggest competition right now. And I think it's important, it's a community conversation we need to have. Mm-hmm. But when we look at the high school for last year, that was our biggest loss, gross loss, was our students leaving the county. And when I say county, I'm not saying Union County. I'm talking Michigan, Indianapolis, California. I mean, they're going far away. And again, the last year or so, we've asked our secretaries to really track that for us in Power School. They have to do it in a comment section in Power School. So when we pull that, we have to pull out the comments to know, but they've done a really good job at helping us know where they're going. What I will say that, again, we're doing a little different this year is every 30 days, I will have a report that's submitted to Dr. Borf about where our kids have gone and where they're coming in from. And so we did that for our first 30 days. That first 30 days is a little questionable because, as you know, as a former principal, fact is you have kids that made decisions before school started, and those first 30 days we're just filling that out. So yes, we do know, and we're watching that very closely,
So when you say a lot leaving, so we have at the high school, we're down about 63 students.
Correct.
So of those 63 students, about how many of them have left Wayne County?
Well, see, that's a net number. So I can tell you, like, in our first 30 days, which, again, and I have that upstairs and I can submit that for you, but just in our first 30 days, for the entire school district, we had 84 kids. For the high school, it was about 34.
Leave the county?
Left the county.
So a little over half of them.
Well, again, you have to think that 63 number is not first 30 days, because you have so many. You'd be surprised how many students, and I think you'd be really surprised how many students move in and out through our entire year. It's a big number for us.
Okay, Kelly, and then Susie.
Just out of curiosity, the other high schools in the county, are they losing students too? Do you know?
I have not had a chance. I've been obviously focused on us, but I'd be happy to, and share that with Dr. Borf, so I can share with you, look at the other high schools and what their ADM count shows. I think we're analyzing the data a lot more intensely this year than we've done in the past, so I don't know if the other schools do that, but I have no problem. I know Dr. Borf meets with the superintendents regularly, so that could be a conversation that is shared as well.
I don't need exact numbers. I just wanted to feel for how the rest of the county's doing.
Susie.
I was curious about the intermediate, the changes at the intermediate level, and I know that there was an increase in the program at Hibbard in those grades, and I wondered how much of that was due to that change, whether it's just that we've got the kids, they're just in a different seat.
Yeah,
Just look at pure numbers.
If you look at their numbers for Hibbard, it went 14 up. That's really not a whole lot, because you have to remember they also have 3rd and 4th grade there too. So it's not just 5th through 8th. But we do have the breakdown in that growth, and again, I can share that with you, but 14 isn't, I wouldn't say they're pulling from Dennis or Test, like you might think that would be the case. But because that 3rd and 4th grade did make a difference for them, a significant difference.
Jeff?
I have 3 questions. One of the concerns I had in the beginning when we started talking to the Excel Center was that they were going to target a group of students that we serve at the high school. Have we lost quite a few students to the Excel Center?
Looking at last year's data, we did lose students to the Excel Center. I haven't had a chance to sit down with Mrs. Wolpe and talk about that, but we will be. We'll be talking about how to look at that data and analyze that a little bit differently. We do have a student assistance team, I think that was in the board update, that has started this year to really capture those students that we want to see graduate with Richmond High School diplomas, and work closely with those students. And so that's going to be a big impact that we do at the high school this year too. But we did have students.
It sounds like that they are becoming a big competitor to us then.
I don't know if I would say.
Let me insert something there. A yes to your answer is not a yes to the fact that they are targeting our students.
That's
Well,
correct.
oh, no, I am not,
But you,
I'm not
that was
trying to.
your
I'm not
question,
tr-
are they
yeah.
targeting our
Yeah.
students?
I'm not trying to
They're
insinuate that
not
at all.
targeting our
No.
students, but there are some of our students who have turned to the Excel Center for services that they might be, I mean, for a student who has 5 credits and they're in their junior year, the Excel Center is a nice alternative to the services that we can offer. And so some of those students have found that to be an attractive alternative.
Well, the reason why, because our alternative program, maybe it's time that we should take a look at our alternative program and change it to tweak to meet those needs. I mean, I knew they were gonna take some of our students when we agreed to the lease and bring them in, because I think it's for the betterment of the community, and I support the Excel Center. I'm not trying to slam them whatsoever. But we also have a mission to make sure that we're providing, and I know that's what we were trying to do with our alternative program. So maybe part of what we look at is, we look at that program ourselves.
Well, and do we know what our numbers are at our alternative program? Have they?
I don't know those right at this point, but yes, absolutely. We know what those daily numbers are.
Well, I was just, I guess what I wanted to ask is, are they stable? How are they in comparison to years past?
Okay.
And does it warrant us looking at that program to see if we need to maybe bump it up a little bit, or change it out, or
But it also should be noted that we only receive funding for 4 years.
Right.
A student is only given a 4-year stint in our high school.
Unless they're in special education, they get a
Right.
5th year then. Right.
And for most of those students,
I did not know that.
they would be, I mean, we as an institution are better served if they can find more appropriate services
Well,
elsewhere too.
so any of our
Except that
students
we
who
get
are,
dinged for them not graduating.
Correct.
who are 5th-year students, we do not receive funding
Correct.
for a 5th-year student, or
Well-
Eventually, we get credit on our graduation rate, but not in the year of.
okay.
And if they're not in the special education, we don't get the
Right,
funding. But
right.
if they're in the,
Right.
well, it just gives us a point that I think that we can look at it. The second question I have, and this is for the public, and because I don't want to quote a number, because when I quote numbers, I'm always wrong, but just so the public understands, the impact financially per student loss, what is that exact number from the state?
$6,429
Per student.
per student.
So we're taking a $250,000 loss by dropping 37 students. So I think it's important for the community to realize that. And the third question I'd like, in years past, we've gotten the summary by building, by grade level in a nice little rectangular chart. So
Okay.
when those numbers are all fleshed out, could we get that copy again?
Yeah, we're just waiting on being able to submit to the state and get clean numbers before we send that to you. We have right now our preliminaries, but we have not gotten them this.
Well, and I know it's usually sometime after that. I just want
Right.
to, thank you.
Susie?
I have two, one is maybe a comment, and is there anything, do we have the type of relationship between the Excel Center, the adult education program, and the alternative program because these are 3 really excellent programs that provide different types of supports for people who are trying to achieve some type of a high school completion of some type. And so what I'm curious about is wouldn't it behoove us and the Excel Center, and wouldn't it be to the benefit of these programs if there were, and the high school as well, if there were some conversation to try to figure out, I mean, it could very easily be that someone at the Excel Center is at a place where they need to go into adult education, or someone in adult education could benefit because of their credit situation going to the Excel Center, or even going to the alternative school.
Right, and what I guess I want to clarify is, and I appreciate your question very much, just because my office handles the student records, we have a lot of conversations with all three of those areas. And I know, just from our own history, that they do communicate. I mean, there's a very good relationship between alternative program at the high school, the counselors, and Excel, and adult. I mean, I know that happens. Now, could we improve? Absolutely. I'm sure that there's ways that we can sit down and talk about it, but, I mean, we have I just know as records are moved from our building to somewhere else, that I know there's conversations that have taken place between those areas. But sure, we can always improve in what we do, go from good to great, and we can do that. So we'll continue to work in that area as much as we need to. Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I think it's important when we have 3 great programs trying to support people in their various endeavors to try to complete high school, that we maximize the opportunity for those individuals by having that communication among those programs.
Absolutely.
Well, and honestly, it goes beyond high school because, you know, it goes into the career readiness also. And, you know, it's one thing to complete your degree, but then it's, the key is that you complete that degree, but then you are prepared for the workforce in some way, either through going on to some kind of advanced schooling or securing a job or whatever. So it's even further than just getting that degree.
Dixie?
Well, and I think it's more than just a district-wide problem, too. It's a state problem. When people need to understand that not every kid can complete high school in 4 years. And not every student can complete college in 4 years. And there has to be an understanding of that someplace along the line, and help with funding kids who need that extra time. Now, they're talking about possibly giving credit for fifth-year graduates, but the funding needs to come with that as well.
And I think maybe you heard the same thing I did at the meetings that we attended, Dixie, but it seems to me that perhaps in this year's legislation, there may be some changes in that 5th-year status and how it will be taken care of. Not just being able to credit the high school with those graduates, but also perhaps funding.
Suzanne?
It is kind of a hypocritical thing to sit on one hand and say you need differentiated instruction, everyone learns in their own time, in their own way, and then turn around and say, but it has to happen in 4 years.
4 years, exactly.
Or else.
Exactly.
So that part is kind of ridiculous.
Don't get me started on
I know, I'm sure. I can feel you wiggling around in your chair over here. I do have a question too. Do we still track the transiency piece that you were talking about, the ins and the outs? I'm assuming we've done ourselves a little bit of a favor with fewer buildings. It can't hurt, but I also know that they're in and out of the district and back and forth. And so I was just kind of curious, what kind of a burden or impact does it put on us when we have to go out and figure out where students went? Because sometimes they just aren't here and we don't know where they went. Do we have, is there a big process to prove that they're not here or why they're not here with the
yeah,
state?
I mean, we're responsible for making sure that student we know where they're going. So, I mean, we have steps and measures in that. Number one, the building takes ownership of that student as well. So they work very, very hard.
Sometimes they're
to
just
find.
not there. And
Correct.
so finding
and so
them
then,
has to be.
Then we take an attendance officer, whether it's high school or elementary or intermediate, and the attendance officer works very closely with police department to help. And we had that situation several times last year, and it was the police department that helped us locate the student. And it wasn't the student. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. In most cases, it could be the parents have left and took the student with them, so it wasn't a student missing. And then at the high school, there are times that a student has left their home and finding other places to live and us. But yeah, we take ownership of our kids, and so making sure we know where they are is
And
pretty
I have
important.
no doubt about that. I
Yeah,
guess I was
yeah.
just trying to help communicate to the community that when those students do not come to school, we can't just say, oh, they didn't enroll. We actually have to go out and
We
figure
do.
out where
We
they
have to
are.
that's right.
And prove
Mhm.
that they're not just not coming to school, that they still live here. They may be in Washington, but we have to be able to prove they're in Washington.
Right, and so Melissa Swafford, who is our Power School coordinator, she has to research the student testing number, find that student based on their testing number and where they might be, and it does take time. It does take time. But our schools are doing really well. I really do want to applaud them for the tracking that they've done in the last year. They've done a really good job at.
It gets complicated
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is.
And I just wanted to say too on that point, because I've gone out and tried to find these kids, how difficult that really is. You have no idea how many trips you have to make and how much time it involves to try and locate kids who have left high school and moved somewhere else in Richmond. It's very, very difficult.
That's why it's important we keep our relationship. Having the school resource officers are helpful because they have the connections with law enforcement, and it really does make a difference for us in that aspect. Again, I just want to, as I leave this podium, want to be able to say I want to celebrate tools that we've put in place for our elementary buildings. I do see that it's making a difference. They're using those tools. Our communication and marketing has really targeted that area. And so I think what we'll have to do this year with our communication team is, and working very closely with our intermediate and high school, is how does that plan need to change a little bit to students that begin to make some choices for themselves. And so we will work very diligently this year, and then our tracking will be a little different this year as
Especially
well.
since I think our product is better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
the key.
I agree.
And I
Absolutely.
just think we are not telling it correctly, because to me, I don't know that there's any other choice. So I think we need to get back on track with that, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Misty.
The next item is a discussion or a report on the complexity index. And don't know how much we've talked about this in the past, but it is a really important item in our budget. And I want you to know that the complexity formula is at risk. And we need to understand what exactly is at risk here. The complexity formula is somewhat complicated, and this is a diagram that shows you. At this point in time, we can pretty much look at our funding formula and take it back, and we can plug it in to this calculation, and we get the same result that the state gets. It's a function of 50% of our students who are eligible for free textbooks minus or plus that tier 2, which would be tier 1 minus 35%, multiplied by our foundation. Now that sounds complicated. The next slide shows you what that is, okay? The foundation amount, this is what the state bases its tuition support on. The foundation is $4,587. Our complexity index is the result of that formula that I just gave you. That's $1,842.14. You add that together and it comes to the total that Karen just quoted you a few minutes ago, $6,429.14. Now that complexity index is designed to address the socioeconomic realities that this district faces. The foundation formula assumes that basically there is a basic cost to educating students in the state of Indiana. The complexity index examines the challenges that we face through our demographics and adds to the base or the foundation an amount designed to give us a total per student funding. It's different throughout the state. And the important piece is to know what some of those differences are. I highlighted through the arrow, with the arrows, our complexity index, $1,842. Notice we are not the highest. School City of East Chicago receives $2,740 per student. But I want you to look over on the right. Zionsville receives $123. Now, the schools that are growing rapidly in the state are some of those located on the right. You have Carmel Clay, Hamilton Southeastern, West Lafayette. Don't know that West Lafayette's a rapidly growing district, but I know that Northwest Allen saw over 100 students this year added to theirs. Hamilton Southeastern grew by, I think, 300 students. Center Grove, I am not sure. But a lot of these schools on the right are growing school corporations. They receive the same foundation grant that we receive per student. So, as we're looking at how this materializes, all these highlighted schools in yellow are urban schools with many of the same issues that we have. They face high diversity and low socioeconomic profiles. And School City of East Chicago, over $7,500 per student. We are, I think, number 15 down there, $6,400. All right, now let's look over on the other column. This is what some of the other school corporations are seeing, with Carmel Clay being the lowest, with the base or the foundation plus 226 yielding less than almost $4,800 per student, just a little over $4,800 per student. Now, the way some of those school corporations are able to function, because it's going to be difficult to run a school corporation on $4,800 per student. The way they function is to go out through a referendum, and their school districts simply put more money on the tax rate in order to add more per pupil dollars. And these school corporations are going out and they're getting some substantial operating referenda. Not all the school corporations up there, you'll see, have done that. Some have gone out and they've failed, but others are successfully augmenting their budgets by going through the referendum process. Now, the reason I said that this is at risk, or we're in jeopardy, there are different ways of measuring poverty, but in this district, we measure poverty through the receipt of textbooks, and it's very much intertwined with our free and reduced lunch count. And one of the ways that and I'm not saying that there's a movement underway, but there are a lot of conversations with legislators throughout the state, particularly in areas where there are low complexity index yields. They're looking at ways that we can re-identify poverty. One of the ways that you can identify poverty that we are using right now is through the direct certification process on free textbooks. Karen, you want to talk about how the direct certification process works? Mm-hmm. Because we use that extensively.
One thing at the start of the school year, if you're a parent, you receive the one calls that say, please go to our website where you can link to the state website to file for free and reduced lunches. So right now the parents file for free and reduced, and what under the law currently is that same form is directly relative to textbook assistance. So if they have a reduced lunch amount that would be due, and you set those fees for reduced each July, then they get a reduced amount of textbooks that they're charged for. If they get free textbooks, and then we send into the state, usually in October, the information on the breakdown of all of that. And that has been past practice, and that is practice for this year. It changes next year. And next year what we will find is that just because you qualify for free lunch, you may not qualify for free textbooks. Just because you qualify for a reduced lunch, you probably won't qualify for any reduction in textbooks. So that will also change the dynamics that we have to think about in the financing of the complexity index, because we will see far less students on that free and reduced schedule. They have not put out the forms yet. They're still awaiting further direction on that. We should know more in January as to what that's actually going to look like. It has been slow in coming, so I don't have a lot more information in how it will actually directly relate to amounts and numbers per student count right now, but it will most likely be significant based on preliminary discussions that the state has been having, especially in our food service departments. So it's something we have to think about.
The whole problem is the assumption in the General Assembly, or the conversation in the General Assembly, has been that if you're going to qualify for free and reduced lunch or for the textbooks, you need to fill out the forms for that. In other words, there would be a form for free lunch, there would be a form for the free textbooks. What that is ignoring is the reality that many of the parents who qualify for this type of benefit don't understand the process and are very difficult to reach in the timeline that we have, the window, in order to make this happen. We are talking about, in some cases, people who have limited literacy issues, they have limited communication, and limited understanding of the governmental processes. So this is one of the reasons we've had this direct certification feature in the funding. This is why I'm saying the complexity index is under some jeopardy as we know it. Now, the reason that there are many people in the state not concerned about this is that the money generated by the savings to high urban density populations could be used in places where there are growing and expanding school corporations that don't have quite that poverty issue. So we're concerned. We're looking at this. We're concerned because what I want to show you now is how we use our complexity dollars. Our complexity dollars don't just sit in our budget and await expenditure. We have earmarked almost all those dollars for some high priority needs. In our remediation, the AP testing, Ivy Tech tuition, these are benefits that we provide our students so that, one, they stay in school, so that they are prepared for college and career. This is just the college and career readiness, and you'll see it amounts to over $1 million. In our behavior and attendance, you recognize some of these programs. We've talked about them over the years. We've been able to put them in place because of the complexity dollars. The alternative ed program at the high school we just talked about. That's a $400,000 program. The attendance that we just talked about, $209,000 for all the people who are a part of that. Preschool, you see, again, over $1 million in benefits unique to this school corporation, unique to our programs. Notice on student support services, $6 million, over $6 million we spend in complexity formula. So we're watching this with a great deal of concern. Overall, it's almost an $8.8 million program concern that we have. Our complexity index yields that kind of contribution to our general fund. And if we take a reduction in the complexity formula, there will be a direct impact on some of these very, very crucial programs that we have right now. Some of what you see in this complexity index permits us to offset the cost of special ed. The special ed grant that we receive from the federal and state will not provide the dollars necessary to maintain those services. We have to find other general fund dollars to subsidize our special ed, and a great portion of that comes right out of the complexity formula, because special ed numbers are directly linked to our SES. So we're watching with a great deal of concern. In fact, tomorrow, Karen and I are going to be involved with conversations and training with the Urban Schools Association, because we think it's a message that needs to be sent throughout the state. Richmond's not the only place that has this problem. We're not unique to this. There are almost 40% of the students served in the state of Indiana at risk of losing dollars like this, because it's 40% of the state that students who are in urban areas. So we thought you needed to be informed. I don't really have any action for you to take, but I do want you to be aware.
Could you send us these slides?
You will
Because
have
I have not seen it broken down like that, and I think that is really good information that we all should have.
I don't know that we've ever broken it down like that. We just finished that, or you'd have had it last week. We just finished, this is part of our participation and contribution in tomorrow's workshop. So there you have it. We'll get those to you.
And so are they moving forth with the textbook? So
Yes,
is that?
the change will occur next year with the start of school year. So we'll be working on that throughout this year as we get more guidance from the state on how that's going to change, and we'll try to get information out to parents as early as we can to start having the conversations on the changes that are coming and what we need to be prepared for and things like that.
So do you have dollar figures as to how that's going to impact?
I don't, because
us?
I have not seen the forms. I have no idea
that's-
how it
okay, you
will
said that.
change things.
Okay, so
So-
we don't know. And then the other question I was going to ask, so you're beginning this conversation, obviously, with the Urban Schools Association. So you will obviously let us know as a board if there are measures that, you know, we need to take.
That's right.
Dixie has her pen sharpened up, ready to write. So I'm sure. So if we need to,
We'll keep you informed on that.
anybody have any, Dixie?
Well, I think we also need to look at the end of the school year. I don't know when these forms come out, when they would be due. You were talking about that window, but maybe we need to look at how we are getting that stuff filled out. If we could get it filled out early, like at the end of the year when we still have parents
The free lunch
captured.
form is released by the federal government in July.
Oh, great. Okay. So, but, because I
But
know
the textbook
finding
forms-
people,
We don't know.
Yeah,
finding people at the beginning of the year is harder, so.
it is. It's really difficult.
But we may have to change the way we, I don't know, get more help to get people to get the papers signed.
And that's one of the concerns about the additional documentation that the state is calling for schools in high densities for the complexity index. It may mean using some of the dollars derived already just to track down additional personnel, which further draws money away from the important programs that we have.
They could give us the papers earlier.
Yes, Dixie. They
Fair
could.
question.
They could, but they won't.
So the complexity index only affects I say only, but it affects our general fund. That is the only fund that it affects.
For the most part, you might assume there's a really close connection, and well, there is a close connection between our special ed budget and complexity and Title I and complexity.
Okay.
Those are very closely linked.
And about what percentage of our budget, our general fund budget, would the complexity index be? Do you?
8.8.
It's almost a third.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Almost
say,
a third.
If you look at 6,400
Yeah,
versus
third.
4,500, so you're 30%.
Okay. That's why you're the finance person and I'm not. Okay. Thank you very much. That was really good information. We're ready to move on to our action items.
Mrs. Scalf has a number of items that she would like to present for action.
I do. It is the time of year where we approve our budget so that I can submit it to the state and they can work their magic and then we can move forward. So today, this afternoon, you've had time to look over the budget forms and I'm asking that you will approve and sign the 2015 budgets as they have been presented, all forms from 1 through 4, and including the adoption of Budget Form 4, which is a requirement by the state, and it is the resolution of appropriations and tax rates. So I ask for your approval at this time.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. And now we will move to the Capital Projects Fund Plan. I ask that you adopt the 2015 through 2017 Capital Projects Fund Plan as it was presented to you, and that the administration be given permission to publish the notice of adoption.
Okay, motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. I ask that you also adopt the 2015 through 2026 bus replacement plan as it has been presented to you.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. The next thing I ask is that you approve the 2015 budget line 2 resolution and grant me, Richmond Community Schools Treasurer, Karen Scalf, the proper authority to reduce line 2 on Form 3 for the 2015 budgets.
Okay. Motion made by Suzanne Darengowski, seconded by Kelly Baumgartner. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
And finally, I ask that the School Board of Trustees approve the tax neutrality resolution as it has been presented.
Okay, should we make the motion first and then? Okay, I need a motion. Motion made by Jeff Slifer, seconded by Susie Hively. Comments or questions, Mr. Cross?
I just want to make sure the board understands and the public understands that the tax neutrality resolution is mandated by the provisions that allowed the corporation to issue its pension bonds. Those bonds were refunded to the bond bank last year. So while the resolution refers to the original issue, the actual debt service might have been somewhat impacted, and in any event, the resolution is valid for the proposition that that's the funds that have been identified will be the funds that will, if you will, bear the burden required to allow us to debt service our pension bond obligation as refunded.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Mr. Cross, we have a question. as our secretary is not here, who would be allowed to sign on those forms?
Statute basically, as it speaks to contracts, talks about the vice president acting in the absence of either the president or secretary.
That's the answer then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As opposed to having a point of pro tem.
Okay, thank you.
Our next item would be receipt of donations.
Okay, this month we received donations that are in a total amount of $1,753.91. We received $100 from Fair Acres Home Extension Club for clothing and supplies for students in need, as well as a $200 school supply donation. And these two donations were not actually monetary, but they were donations to the school building with the start of the school year. And you will see that quite a bit during this month's donations. We have numerous community members that are kind enough to help our schools in ways that are not necessarily monetary donations. So at Vale Elementary, Eileen Giffens donated school supplies, Advance America donated school supplies, Richmond Moose Lodge, number 167, donated school supplies and toiletry items for our students. And Mancino's Pizza donated pizza coupons as a student incentive at Vale. And then Carol Reeves donated school supplies at Westview Elementary. Westview also received cellular connection donation of backpacks with school supplies for our students. And Jennifer Connolly Arrett donated some student incentives to Westview Elementary as well. The Hibbard Intermediate School did receive from State Farm Insurance, and that's Pat James' office, a $50 donation toward the Life Skills Playground. The Hibbard Garden Project received a $100 donation from Green Filing LLD, and that's Eric Demick Eastman. Pleasant View Nursery also donated mini seed packets for the Hibbard Garden Project, and that amounted to $429 in monetary value. Michael Ornstein donated to the RHS athletic program for an intermediate football, and he donated $100. So I ask that you accept these donations totaling a monetary value of $1,753.91.
Okay, motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions, other than thank you to our community people? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
We moved to 6.08 because we took action on 607 earlier in the meeting. This would be for Hibbard Pool renovation bids. And Mr. Tidrow, we turn to you for that presentation.
Okay, thank you. As part of our recent bond issue for the Hibbard building, one of the projects that was discussed was upgrading the air handling system in the pool area. This would be the environmental system that if you've been in that pool area, you know it's pretty humid at times, hot, and this air handling upgrade would help alleviate some of that problem. So this is a requesting permission to advertise for bids to upgrade the air handling system, and that we ask the School Board of Trustees to grant permission to advertise for those bids.
Okay, motion made by Susie Hively, seconded by Dixie Robinson. Comments or questions?
We've
Jeff?
both been in the pool.
Well, I had called Mr. Tidrow yesterday, I believe. This project must have kind of slipped through. I didn't realize that we were going to talk about spending. The question I had for Mr. Tidrow was, what is the anticipated expense of this? And I think he said he had $80,000 left, or $80,000 was able to come from the bond or
Right, from the
thereabouts.
bond.
But the expense, depending on the bids, could, if we took money from the general fund, could run, well, I want to say you said 130,000.
CPF.
Or CPF, right.
Yeah, she said-
Not general
yeah.
fund, CPF.
That's right.
But,
yeah,
so, as I was thinking about this, and you know, we're spending so much time making sure that we're spending our money as efficiently and effectively as possible. I mean, we've got consultants coming in that's going to look at our payables. We've got, we've already seen enrollment drop for funding next year. We already see potential expenses going into other directions. I guess the question I have to ask, is this need a want? Is this something that we want to do, or is this something that we have to do? And I guess I also want to follow that up with this, when I was talking with Mr. Tidrow, this would be strictly for the pool area. So I think there's some bigger questions that we have out there that we need to discuss. One, do we want to even keep the pool open? And, you know, the pool to me is a luxury, especially since this is a second pool. I would wonder what usage we have at the pool if we could combine that with the high school. But even yet, we have other questions to be asked that we're in the middle of a facility use agreement right now with Family Fitness. I think we have some discussions there on whether we want to possibly take it off of a facility use agreement and consider a lease or not. I mean, we really haven't had the opportunity to sit down and discuss that yet. That's one of the things that's on the agenda for the Finance Committee. So I don't want to give anybody into any thought that we are talking about it, but it is an item that we're going to be discussing. Because I've said all along, the amount of rent that we collect, I would be surprised if it even covers the cost of heating the water. I take a look, I'm also on the energy management team. One of the things that we're trying to do is go through the buildings and save cost. And, you know, running a pool 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 364 days a year is extremely expensive. Again, should we consider maybe using that area for another reason? I don't have any answers, but I guess the first question I would have to ask, and I asked some questions about usage and detailed usage and that type of stuff, but I guess one of the questions that I would like to ask, would there be any reason or any harm, since this kind of work can really take place anytime? Is there any reason why that we can't maybe delay this 30 or 45 days and maybe develop some kind of a study committee that would kind of determine whether we feel like this is a justified expense? Because I guess I have a lot of questions to ask. Like, we want this lift project to go on at the high school for the library. You know, could we use that $80,000 in the bond or some of the money in the capital projects that we were going to spend here at Hibbard? Can we transfer those to the high school? So is this a number one priority for me, for the taxpayers? I did ask Rob, how much did we use it? You know, I hear we use the building, but do our students use it every day of the week, 2 hours a day?
I'll respond to that one. That's
Sure.
an easy one. I talked with Mrs. Gibbs, and she had mentioned it in her presentation, but what they do is they have all the test and dentist fifth graders that they bus over. They also do all the Hibbert fifth graders through eighth graders, plus life skills. Not all the life skills students can participate, but that comes to about 550 students. And depending on the number of lifeguards available, each kid gets 5 to 7 days of swimming activity or lessons at about 50 minutes. So if we take 5 days at 50 minutes, that's about 2,200 hours of activities that our students are getting of what I think is an important life skill to obtain is learning how to swim or save yourself or whatever that is. I'm not here to say whether we should have 2 pools in the district or not, but
Well,
it does take
those are some of the
energy,
questions that
so,
I think maybe
yeah.
that we need to, because
You
most of the time I'm at the high school through the day, I don't see the pool being used. So if we're going to bus students from the intermediate schools to the Hibbert program, we could easily bus them to the high school. Now, I don't know whether logistically all of that can be worked out or not, but, you know, I was just, as I was going through and I was looking at the energy cost, you know, I'd like to have a better understanding about the detailed usage. I think the family fitness contract really needs to be discussed. What are we gonna do? What is the family's fitness role there in the future? Because, you know, you got chemical expense. I'm not sure how that's worked out completely with the people, but I just would want a firm grasp of what we're dealing with, and I just.
You had a question about when could we do it. My understanding, and Mr. Mays could address this as well, we can do this at any time. We wanted to get it through the board, get some bids so that we could do it over Christmas break, if we have to drain the pool to do some other work, but get it done, and then the students come back, have minimal impact. But we could, Mr. Mays, do it later. Is that correct? I mean, that's.
This is just to advertise for bids.
Well, you know, I mean, piggybacking on what Jeff has, the questions that he has raised. So, it seems as though, having a plan here, you know, I don't recall that this was in the plan, but it could have been. So.
It was in the plan.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So, well, good, it was in the plan, but I missed it. So, the money, the bond money that was for Hibbard, does that money have to be spent at Hibbard, or can it be spent?
Technically, it does not, but we have to watch our building level caps, is probably the reason why. I would hesitate to say we can just move it to the high school, because we might be really close to that 2 million threshold anyway from the original bond that we took out to do the projects at the high school. So I would need to investigate that a little bit closer to know if it would be able to be shifted. I definitely can look into that so that we can know if you wanted to consider that maybe as a future possibility, but.
Well, I guess what I would like to know is, not only what's happening right now with the pool, and I really would, I mean, 2,000 hours, that doesn't really tell me a whole lot. It tells me that it's being used some, but when we're talking about an entire school year, you know, I need like days and how many days it's being used and so forth. But I guess I would like, not just as to what is happening right now, but what our plan is for the future of that pool for Richmond Community Schools, especially as we talk about our finances being obviously challenged as to, you know, what we're going to be bringing in, and with our, obviously we have less students this year. So, I mean, I just think that we have to be very, very cognizant of all of our dollars, and is this, where is this on the priority list? Is it a high priority, kind of a medium priority, or is it a low priority? I don't know that. So,
Well, I think one of the questions that I also was considering, and I don't know, there may be a lot of other school systems in the state that have 2 swimming pools, but I don't know of any off the top of my head. But when we started growing, we opened the Hibbert building, and we thought, and we wanted to grow the programs there. There was even some consideration of making Hibbert a K through 8 building at one point. That was part of our discussions. So, so I guess I'm thinking, well, maybe it's time that we take a look at how that building is being used, and maybe we would better off spending the $80,000 or $100,000 to close the pool, fill it in, and turn it into an educational space. I don't know, but I still kick myself when we spent the money to redo the building the roof at Highland Heights. I mean, we spent more money than we needed to because we went to the top-notch building and then we closed it the next year. So I still see that although we needed to spend the money, we could have spent a lot less than $300,000 on Highland to get it to where it's at today. But, so I'm sitting here thinking, I don't want to wake up in the fall of next year and say, well, you know, we fixed the pool area up and we put a whole new heating, because the first question I asked is, we've heard of some HVAC problems that were still in the early college rooms. I just wanted to make sure that this HVAC system was just for the pool area. And this is strictly the pool area. So, and if they're going to do, I'm assuming they're talking about changing the boiler system in there, which means most of the work will probably be in the mechanical room. So I don't want to wake up 6 months from now and say, man, I wish I'd have spent that money in a different way.
When we have students using the pool, did I hear at one point that there has to be 2 lifeguards available?
I believe it's now 2.
It's 2,
Yes,
and
you
one
do.
is the physical education teacher.
Okay,
It's
and then
current,
the
so,
other one, is that
it's
provided by family?
Family Fitness, right.
Okay, so then, I guess my question is, what if, I have some what ifs. So, what if, Family Fitness, determines that, they don't want to do a lease agreement with us? Okay, so then, obviously, lifeguards have to be paid for by us, correct?
That's right.
Right,
Right.
we'd have to make sure we have the
So-
required lifeguards there.
So I guess those are just questions that, that kind of go along with this as we're trying to determine where the best place is to spend our dollars. That's just
and that's-
my thought right now.
I don't think that we've got our head wrapped around what it really cost us to heat the water and put AC and conditioning and the heat in that area. I think when we put all those numbers together, I think you'd be surprised what it actually cost. Now, whether that cost is all incurred by us or not at this point, we would still need to know those costs, because at any given time, if Family Fitness decided that they did not want to have that partnership anymore under their facilities use agreement, and they could walk out at any given day because they're not under any contractual obligation. We have to also have in the back of our mind what it's going to cost us to treat it chemically. So, and you know, and we still perform the maintenance on it. I know that. So,
Yeah,
I guess I would like to know the answer to the question on if we could move that money to the library project at the high school. To me, that would be a much higher priority to spend bond money if it's capable.
Well, and I don't want anyone to think that I don't support, that the swimming program, at least in the past,
It's awesome.
has been absolutely awesome,
It is
because so many of our students do not have that experience. And I know from past experience that I've had with students at the pool, it has been a tremendous experience for them. But, and so it is an important program, but I think that we just need to have some information about our planning and about our costs in moving forward. And I realize that the motion, if we go forward with this, it is a motion to accept bids, that
Well,
it is
to
not.
advertise.
To advertise for
To
bids.
advertise for bids.
We have the plans drawn up, we have that investment already for that, but it is just for the advertisement for the bids, so.
Correct. Susie?
If we're going to pursue this broader discussion, one of the questions I would like to know is the capacity that the high school has to provide the same type of time
Question needs to be answered.
that students are using at Hibbard to get a similar program there at the high school.
Well, this is a radical change in direction that we weren't prepared to discuss today.
Right.
And what I would like to do is take this off the table and let us prepare a time to come back with a more informed discussion.
I think that would be great. Karen?
Would this be something you'd like to see at the Finance Committee, perhaps?
The Finance Committee needs to be wrangling on this. Yeah, there are some big issues here. There are some programmatic issues. There are some issues that connect with the high school. But
Right.
every single fifth grader in the community is affected. So we need to be talking about that.
Well, and the high school pool needs some work too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could use a similar type of system.
Parameters on the use of bond dollars. I mean, this is a huge issue.
But our pool, our Hibbard pool, is in use and will be continue.
Oh, yeah.
It will be used in the future. This does not prevent it from being used,
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
No, just,
Right.
you will feel, I mean, you guys have been in there. It's, the environmental
Right.
is not the friendliest, but it will be, they're gonna start classes in there probably this week or next week to start busing.
But
the
we
kids
are
on this.
lowering the temperature of the water from what it was. Is that not correct?
Right, we'll take, right now it's lowered.
Okay.
We will raise it a hair, but not as high as we had,
So it might be a little
Because
more
that was a
comfortable
little-
than it was
Yeah.
a few weeks ago.
so.
Well, with that, is it, I guess, I kind of fell asleep at the wheel, and I kind of apologize for that, but, because I had thought the bond money, I thought the project at Hibbard was done, so, could I get a detailed listing of the bonds that we approved and the money spent and what's left, so I
Absolutely. The pool project was one that we had on the list if there was reserve left.
Right.
It was not determined to immediately work that project in, but it was only if the other bids came in low enough that it provided us to have a little bit of extra at the end. So that's why we followed that plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just aren't taking any action or?
That would be my recommendation. Let's just table that for the time being.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, we are at our second public commentary time. Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we are ready for board reports, old business. Kelly?
I was wondering, either by way of update or at the next meeting, if we could get an update on the Highland Heights building, where we are with that. I've had a couple people ask me since we opened up talking about Garrison, what we were doing with Highland Heights, and I didn't know exactly where we were on that. And then also if we were going to discuss the school grades.
We aren't,
They're still
they're
embargoed.
embargoed
Okay.
right now.
Till October 15th.
Well, I'd like to talk.
No kidding.
Oh, well, I'm under an
can
embargo.
Embargo till when?
October
October
15th.
15th.
Thank you.
That's because they're probably still figuring them. Didn't say that.
There are some people who are appealing their grades.
Oh, okay.
Well said.
Anything else?
Are we in old business?
Yes.
Okay. Got lost. I just wanted to say that Susie Hively and I are working on the e-governance board. It is a lot of work.
We thought it was gonna be kind of a
No, it's
cinch,
not
didn't
easy.
we?
It's
But-
not easy.
Okay, well.
Thank
So-
you for filing for reelection.
So, but I wanted everybody to know that we are in the throes of
Well, please know
preparing
that if you need any of us to do anything, that I'm sure that we are all very willing.
Retreat.
Well, we're working on a retreat.
Right, that's right. And it looks pretty good.
Okay.
probably.
You have a tentative date on that?
Probably sometime the 1st of November.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Just
Don't have
a
a
general
specific-
neighborhood would be good. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Don't have a specific date, but we tried to
Fall break week.
listen to people's travel plans and so on and so forth, and it looks like it's probably going to be the 1st of November sometime. So we'll get with you on that. Some of you went to the Indiana School Board Association conference. Anyone want to share? Dixie?
I just wanted to say that while we were at the fall ISBA conference, that we had our own Leslie Bolser and Phil Quinn were there and gave a presentation on more than words. And there was an enormous amount of interest, lots of questions, people really interested because it's such a low-cost way to get
High
these kinds of
impact.
things into your school and have an impact.
And the community.
And
That
the
was the other
community,
piece I
yes,
think
they
people
were-
really appreciated.
Right.
Well, and you watch people get excited about it, you
Mhm.
know, when you sit there and then all of a sudden you could see people getting very animated, especially the low-cost part of it and the deep impact. It was a good seminar.
Good.
And that it doesn't take a lot of time in the school day, that it's easy to implement.
Actually, as an outgrowth of that presentation, I just had I was just in the right place at the right time. I was sitting, and this woman came and sat next to me. It turned out that she's from Kokomo, and she started asking me questions about it, and then all of their folks sort of were gathering around, because that was where they were meeting to go on to the next stage of the day. And I think they would be very interested in doing some board development with our board, because they want to know more about the working with words, and they have a lot of awesome things going on that it would be fun and interesting for us to learn about. And we were talking even about us perhaps hosting them and them hosting us, and it would be an interesting thing because our communities are very similar.
Yes,
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Well, I did get a little, talk to Dr. Borof's debate teacher, and, so.
We could make a go of it.
But if I could, since I have your attention, I also wanted to, I was very interested in the discussion about ebooks that I heard in several different venues, and I'm not sure I have the date correct, but I think that by 2017, all adopted textbooks will have to have, or maybe this is what they're trying to do, maybe they haven't actually done it yet, but have an ebook option for any that's the direction that they were going in.
Most of them are already there.
And,
It's a rarity if they don't.
but what I do feel like is that has an impact on how do we make sure that our students have the technology to utilize ebooks. And then I also had the opportunity to participate and hear aspects of presentations emphasizing the increased engagement of students when they have the opportunity to utilize technology of all types, not just ebooks. And that made me think more about our very own Rob Tidrow, for whom I know that's a passion, the idea of utilizing technology and the engagement of students. And we've taken some great steps forward in doing that, but that made me want to have that on the agenda so that we would have, as a board, a better understanding of possible things that were out there on the horizon and how we might be getting that incorporating those things into the future of our students. And then
You were supposed to come back with answers, Susie.
No, I came
Not
back.
questions.
Well, and
Good.
then the other thread that kept coming up for me, and I heard it several times in several places, was the amount of public money the state of Indiana is spending on charter and voucher programs for students who were never in the public schools. And it's a huge amount of money. It's actually more money than the state of Indiana spends to support, for example, English as a second language students, or preschool, or, I mean, there's just a list of things that, and I was shocked, actually just shocked, that we spent that amount of public money on students who never were ever in the public schools, who were always in private schools, and now are receiving the benefit of public money, because I had thought that the kids who were getting those vouchers and getting that support had to come from the public schools in order to get it.
That's how it was when you were in the central office.
Not now.
But that's not.
And
the-
that's changed.
The dramatic picture presented last week was that the General Assembly sort of set up a whole new school district. And if you could examine the size of that school district, it was a 7,900 student school district that they established with the stroke of the pen by doing it like that. All of a sudden, they'd created a new school district, much larger than ours, and funded completely.
It
That's
used to
the
be they had to
impact.
be enrolled a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's gone.
And the thing that was so telling to me was the fact that they're spending more money, more state money on that than they are on some of these
Preschool.
other gifted and talented preschool, English as a second language students, and those are students that are across the state who, I mean, that was just almost, it was just very upsetting to me.
Well, I will say that the first couple things that you talked about student engagement and so forth, and with technology, we have talked about our retreat centering around that kind of conversation. So you're on to something there, and hopefully we'll all be on to it, because hopefully we'll be able to, Dr. Borf is working to secure a facilitator, and that would be willing to take on the conversations that we need to have. And and we will be working on planning that agenda, so that is really important input. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we are ready for, did you have anything, Dr. Borf?
No, I would echo the conversation on the vouchers. That was what I took away from it as well.
Sounds like we need to have another conversation with our legislators soon. Could you arrange that, please, Misty? We are ready to preview our upcoming meeting and events.
The most important issue on the preview is the work session we have coming up on Policy 2265. It will be a work session. It will be open to members of the public, and we encourage interested people to be here who would like to weigh in on that.
And 2265 is our...
That is the one having to do with student enrollment, and particularly involvement of students in extracurricular activities and athletics at the intermediate level. That's where the issue is right now. It's a little broader than that.
Press conference, anyone from the press? Questions? Okay, you wanna come to the podium, please? I'm sorry, but I'm sure you're ready to stretch your legs anyway.
I'm sure you are also.
I don't do this very often, so I hope I'm not asking inappropriate questions. For the Garrison project, you did approve appraisal, doing the 2 appraisals, but I wasn't certain if you knew how much that was going to cost. There was the $3,400 was mentioned, but then Mr. Cross mentioned that maybe that more limited appraisal would cost less. Do you have any idea how much that?
It's a maximum of $3,400.
That was for 2 appraisals, though, I
For
believe.
2, right.
We're only talking about getting 1.
Right.
So hopefully we're
I
somewhere
don't have.
in the area of half that.
But no more than 3,400.
It probably would be about half.
Okay. Of course, I have to check my notes here. Sorry. This always happens when you come into a meeting that everybody is used to all the various kinds of acronyms. What does ADM stand for?
Good question, Louise. Karen, what does ADM stand for?
Average daily membership.
Membership.
Which is an average.
I got average daily, but I never would have guessed membership. And finally, Dr. Borfin, when your discussion of the complexity index, which is appropriately named, I should say. It's kind of, I was having a little difficulty understanding where it is now. I mean, the textbook, separating out textbook and free and reduced lunch has already, that's a decision already been made to start next school year. But the other implications
piece-
is it's in the hands of the legislature? Where is this now?
My understanding is that the legislators will have a great deal to say about how this is documented. And there are some questions being raised right now among school districts with their legislators in other areas of the state. And it will be to more clearly define that process of documentation.
The piece to this that the free and reduced connects to, because they're not directly perhaps by dollar, but it's the identified students that makes that relative to the complexity index. So
So we're gonna do it
okay,
another way.
the food service and textbook piece identifies our student number that works into the funding.
I see.
So that's why
Right,
it's
right.
important.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't say who I am. I'm Louise Ronald from the Palladium item. I know almost all of you personally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Okay. It looks like we are ready for adjournment.